Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Cup English. I'm Liam.
And I'm Chloe. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes of your day with us.
Yeah, whether you're listening in the morning, during a break, or on your way home, we're really happy you're here.
Absolutely. And before we get into today's conversation, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy listening to real, everyday English, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
And follow Daily Cup English so you don't miss our daily podcast episodes. We post new conversations every day to help you improve your English naturally.
Think of it like having a cup of coffee and a real conversation in English every single day.
Exactly. Speaking of coffee, Chloe, how's your day going so far?
Not bad, actually. It's been a little busy, but I can't complain. I finally took a break and made myself some coffee, so I'm feeling better now. What about you?
Pretty similar. Busy morning, lots of thinking, lots of planning, which actually fits perfectly with today's topic.
Oh, nice transition. So, what are we talking about today?
Today's topic is something we hear all the time, but we don't always really think about it. The idea is you learn by doing, not thinking.
That sounds simple, but also kind of deep at the same time.
Yeah, right? At first it sounds obvious. Of course you learn by doing. But if that's true, why do so many of us spend so much time thinking instead of acting?
That's a good question. I mean, thinking feels safe, doing feels risky.
Exactly. A lot of people believe that if they think long enough, plan enough, or prepare enough, they'll feel ready one day.
But that ready day often never comes.
Right, and that's where this idea comes in. Real learning doesn't happen in your head. It happens when you try something, mess up, adjust, and try again.
So, when you say you learn by doing, not thinking, do you mean thinking is useless?
Not useless. Thinking is important, but thinking alone doesn't teach you much. You can read about swimming all day, but you won't really learn until you get into the water.
That's a great example. And honestly, I think a lot of people listening right now can relate, especially when it comes to learning English.
Exactly. People study grammar for years, but they're afraid to speak. They're still thinking, still preparing, still waiting.
And today, we want to talk honestly about that, about overthinking, taking action, making mistakes, and how experience changes you in ways thinking never can.
Yeah, no lectures, no lessons, just a real conversation and our own experiences. So grab your coffee, relax, and let's get into it. You know, this topic actually hits pretty close to home for me. For a long time, I was exactly the kind of person who thought too much and acted too little.
Really? You don't seem like that now.
Yeah, maybe not, but a few years ago, totally different story. I was always planning, always thinking, always telling myself I'll start when I'm ready.
What were you trying to start?
Honestly, a lot of things. One big example was learning how to speak English more confidently in public. I could understand almost everything. I could read, I could write emails, I knew grammar rules, but when it came to speaking, I froze.
That sounds very familiar.
I kept telling myself I needed more vocabulary, better pronunciation, more practice in my head. So I watched videos, read articles, took notes, but I didn't actually speak.
So you were learning, but not really learning.
Exactly. I was collecting information, not building skill, and I didn't realize that at the time.
What changed?
One day, I had to give a short presentation at work. It wasn't a big presentation, maybe 5 minutes, but I was terrified. I thought about it for weeks. I imagined every mistake I could make.
Let me guess, you thought about quitting.
Oh yeah, I almost did. I told myself, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I should wait until next time. But there was no next time. I had to do it.
So you were forced to act.
Exactly. And guess what? It wasn't perfect. I forgot words, I spoke too fast, I made grammar mistakes. I could see it on people's faces.
That sounds painful.
It was. But here's the interesting part. After it was over, I felt different. Not amazing, not proud, but lighter, like I had survived something scary.
That feeling is powerful.
Yeah, and more importantly, I learned more in those 5 minutes than I had learned in months of thinking and studying.
What did you learn?
I learned what my real problems were, not the ones in my head, but the real ones. I learned which words I actually needed. I learned how my body reacted when I was nervous. I learned how people really responded to my mistakes.
And they didn't run away screaming.
No, they didn't. Most people didn't even care. Some were actually supportive.
That's something many people forget.
Exactly. After that, I started speaking more, not because I felt confident, but because I realized confidence comes after action, not before.
That's such an important point.
Once I started doing, learning became faster. Every conversation taught me something new. Every mistake gave me feedback, and slowly, without really noticing, I got better.
So the doing taught you what thinking never could.
Yeah, thinking helped me understand ideas. Doing helped me change.
I really like that. Doing helped me change. That's powerful.
Thanks. And honestly, this doesn't only apply to English. I've seen the same pattern with fitness, work, even relationships. You can think all you want, but life teaches you through experience.
And experience only comes when you step into it.
Exactly.
I really like your story, and I agree with a lot of what you said, but I also feel like I should speak up for the thinking side a little bit.
I was hoping you would.
Yeah, because while I totally believe that action is important, I don't think thinking is the enemy. I think the real problem is how we think.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, for me, thinking can be helpful when it gives you direction, but it becomes harmful when it turns into fear or excuses, and I've definitely been on both sides.
Same here.
I remember a time when I rushed into something without thinking enough. I had just changed jobs and I was excited. I wanted to prove myself quickly, so I said yes to everything.
That sounds familiar already.
Yeah, I didn't really think about my limits. I didn't plan my time well. I just acted. And after a few months, I was completely exhausted.
So action alone wasn't enough.
Exactly. I learned that doing without thinking can also cause problems. I had to stop, reflect, and ask myself some hard questions.
Like what?
Like, why am I saying yes to everything? What am I actually trying to prove? What do I really want from this job? Those questions helped me change how I acted later.
That makes sense. So thinking helped you adjust.
Yes, thinking helped me learn from doing, and that's the key part for me. Action gives you experience, but thinking helps you understand that experience.
I like that distinction.
I think a lot of people misunderstand this idea. They think it means don't think at all, just jump, but that's not really realistic.
True, and probably not very safe either.
Exactly. I think the message should be don't wait forever, don't think so much that you never move, but also don't ignore reflection.
So it's more about balance.
Yes, balance. Action first, reflection later. Not reflection forever and action never.
Wow, that's a good line.
You can take it if you want.
I absolutely will.
But honestly, I say this because I know myself. If I don't allow some thinking, I repeat the same mistakes.
That's a really honest point.
And I think many listeners might feel the same. They've tried things, failed, and then blamed themselves for not thinking enough, when really they just needed time to learn.
Yeah, failure doesn't mean you were stupid. It often just means you were early.
Exactly. And that's why I don't want people to be afraid of either side. You need action to move forward and thinking to make sense of where you've been.
So maybe the real lesson is don't replace action with thinking.
Yes, thinking should support action, not replace it.
That actually connects really well to learning English, too.
I was just about to say that.
You know, when we talk about balance, this is where things get tricky because it's not always easy to tell the difference between preparation and overthinking.
Exactly. They look very similar on the surface.
Yeah, both feel productive, both make you feel busy, but only one of them actually moves you forward.
Preparation has a purpose. Overthinking just keeps you stuck.
That's a great way to put it. I think overthinking often comes from fear, even if we don't want to admit it.
Fear of failure, fear of looking stupid, fear of being judged.
All of the above. For example, think about someone who wants to start going to the gym.
Oh, that's a classic one.
They spend weeks researching workout plans, watching videos, buying clothes, comparing gyms.
But they never actually go.
Exactly. And they tell themselves, I'm preparing. But deep down, they're just afraid of being seen as a beginner.
I've been that person. I didn't want to walk into a gym and not know what I was doing.
Same here. But the funny thing is, everyone in the gym was a beginner once.
We just forget that.
Another example is starting something online, like a YouTube channel or a podcast.
Oh yeah, people plan forever.
They think about the perfect microphone, the perfect logo, the first perfect episode.
And meanwhile, months go by.
Exactly. And the truth is, the first videos are usually bad anyway.
They're supposed to be bad.
Right. You don't learn what works until you upload something and see real reactions.
This reminds me of people who want to change jobs, too.
That's a big one.
People think, I'll apply when my resume is perfect, or I'll wait until I feel more confident.
But confidence often comes after the interview, not before.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't even know what you want until you try something and realize, okay, this is not for me.
That's such an important point. Action gives you information.
Yes, thinking guesses, action shows.
Wow, you're on fire today.
It's the coffee.
So how do people know when they're overthinking?
For me, it's when I keep asking the same questions again and again, but nothing changes.
That's a good sign.
If you've been preparing for months and you're still in the same place, it's probably overthinking.
I also think emotions are a clue. Preparation feels calm, overthinking feels heavy.
That's so true. Overthinking is exhausting.
And the worst part is, it makes you feel like you're failing without even trying.
Yeah, you judge yourself before the world even gets a chance to.
Which is kind of unfair.
Very unfair.
So maybe the real question is not, am I ready, but what's the smallest action I can take?
I love that question. It takes the pressure off.
You don't need a perfect plan, you just need a first step.
And once you take that step, you can think again. You can adjust. You can prepare better.
Exactly. Action first, adjustment second.
That feels like a much healthier way to live.
And a much faster way to learn.
You know, out of all the examples we've talked about, I honestly think learning English is one of the clearest ones.
I was thinking the same thing. It's almost the perfect example.
Yeah, because when it comes to English, so many people spend years thinking, studying, and preparing, but they still don't feel comfortable speaking.
Exactly. They know the rules, they know the grammar, they can pass tests, but real conversations feel scary.
And that fear keeps them quiet.
I've met so many learners who say, I understand everything, but I can't speak.
Which is such a frustrating place to be.
It really is. And usually the reason is simple. They haven't spoken enough. Not because they're lazy, but because they're afraid of making mistakes.
They want to sound natural. They want to sound smart. They want to sound like a native speaker.
And that pressure is heavy.
Very heavy.
I remember talking to a listener once who said they practiced English in their head every day.
Practiced in their head?
Yeah, they would imagine conversations, think about answers, and correct themselves mentally, but they almost never spoke out loud.
That's such a common habit.
And it feels safe. No one can hear your mistakes in your head.
But the problem is, real conversations don't happen in your head.
Exactly. Real conversations are messy. People interrupt, you forget words, you say things the wrong way.
And that's where the real learning happens.
Yes, when you speak and someone looks confused, you learn. When someone corrects you, you learn. When you can't find a word, you learn. I always tell people, mistakes are not a sign that you're bad at English. They're a sign that you're actually using it.
I love that, because silence teaches you nothing.
Exactly. You don't improve by waiting to be perfect. You improve by being a little uncomfortable again and again.
And over time, that discomfort gets smaller.
That's such an important point. At the beginning, everything feels hard. Even simple conversations feel stressful.
But after enough real interactions, something changes. You stop translating every sentence in your head.
You start reacting instead of planning.
And that only happens through doing.
Not through thinking.
Another thing I noticed is that many learners believe they need more vocabulary before they speak.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But speaking is actually what shows you which words you really need.
Exactly. You don't need 10,000 words. You need the right 2,000, and you discover them through use.
And even when you don't know a word, you can still communicate.
That's such an important lesson. Communication is not about being perfect. It's about being understood.
And the more you speak, the better you get at finding ways to explain things.
Which builds confidence.
Confidence that thinking alone can't give you.
So if you're listening right now and you feel stuck with your English, maybe the question isn't, what should I study next?
Maybe the better question is, where can I use my English today?
Exactly. One small conversation, one short message, one voice note.
That's how learning really happens.
By doing.
Listening to everything we've talked about today, I realize how much my mindset has changed over the years.
Same here. I don't think I even notice it day to day, but when I look back, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, I used to believe that thinking things through was a sign of being smart and responsible.
I thought the same.
And to be fair, sometimes it is, but for a long time, I was actually hiding behind thinking. It made me feel safe.
That's such an honest way to say it.
I told myself I was being careful, but really I was afraid of choosing the wrong path.
I think many people confuse caution with fear.
Exactly. And at some point, I realized that no amount of thinking was going to give me a clear answer. I had to choose something and live with it.
That's a big moment.
It really was. I remember deciding to say yes to opportunities more often, even when I didn't feel fully ready.
How did that feel at first?
Uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I doubted myself a lot. I made mistakes. Sometimes I felt embarrassed.
But you kept going.
Yeah, and slowly I noticed something interesting. I started trusting myself more, not because I was perfect, but because I knew I could handle problems when they came.
That's huge. That's real confidence.
Exactly. Confidence didn't come from knowing everything in advance, it came from surviving experience.
I relate to that so much. For me, the biggest shift was realizing that action creates clarity.
What do you mean by that?
Before, I thought I needed clarity to act. I needed to know exactly what I wanted, where I was going, and how it would end.
And now?
Now, I see it the other way around. Once I act, things become clearer. I learn what I like, what I don't like, what works, what doesn't.
So clarity comes after action.
Yes, almost always. Thinking alone just creates more questions.
That explains why some people feel stuck for years.
Yeah, they're waiting for a feeling that only action can give them.
I also think this mindset shift makes life feel lighter.
How so?
When you stop expecting yourself to make perfect decisions, you stop being so hard on yourself.
That's true.
You realize that mistakes are not failures, they're just information.
I love that idea. Mistakes as information.
And once you see them that way, you're not as afraid to start.
Which brings us right back to today's topic.
Yeah, you really do learn by doing, not because thinking is bad, but because life teaches you through experience.
And that lesson changes the way you move through the world.
It really does.
So if you're listening to this right now and you feel stuck, we just want you to know you're not alone.
Yeah, that feeling of being stuck is more common than you think.
Maybe you've been thinking about starting something for a long time.
A new habit, a new job, a project, or even just speaking English more.
And maybe you keep telling yourself, I'll start when I'm ready.
But deep down, you're not sure what ready really means.
If that sounds like you, this message is for you.
You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need to know all the answers.
You just need one small step.
Not a big, scary step, just a small one.
Send that message. Have that short conversation. Try for 5 minutes.
And when it feels uncomfortable, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
It usually means you're learning.
A lot of people wait because they're afraid of making mistakes.
But mistakes are part of the process. They're not a sign that you're failing.
They're a sign that you're brave enough to try.
And honestly, no one is watching you as closely as you think.
Most people are too busy worrying about themselves.
So be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to be a beginner.
Growth doesn't come from thinking about change, it comes from moving, even slowly.
And if you fall, that's okay. You can learn, adjust, and keep going.
You don't have to change your whole life today.
Just start somewhere.
That's enough.
You know, I always enjoy these conversations, but this one feels especially meaningful.
Yeah, same here. It's one of those topics that sounds simple, but stays with you after you stop listening.
Exactly. And if even one person listening feels a little less afraid to start after today, then this episode did its job.
We really hope that's the case.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
And follow Daily Cup English so you can listen to our daily podcast episodes.
We post new conversations every day, all focused on real-life English and real-life topics.
No pressure, no perfection, just natural English you can listen to and learn from.
And remember, you don't have to understand every word to learn something.
Just keep listening. Just keep showing up.
That alone makes a difference.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today.
We really appreciate it.
Take care, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Bye for now.